Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Paige. Thank you for being here. This is my August wrap-up. So last month I tried out ranking all of my books based on how I felt they could be recommended to other people, and I really liked doing that. I thought it was a lot of fun, and it kind of made me think about the books that I like versus what I think other people might like. It's kind of interesting to see. So I'm going to do that again. And I just want to say that if a book that you like is ranked lower on the list, it does not mean it is a bad book. I am trying to rank them based on how I feel like the general population might appreciate them. And I'm basing that more off of my friends and my family, how I would recommend it to them. Some books that I really love, I'm actually going to be ranking lower than other books just because I feel like for the average reader, they might not enjoy it as much. Some of the ones that end up being ranked lower on this list are ones that I feel like are best for a certain demographic, certain age group, certain reader. So I just want to say, I'm not hating on these books. I understand that some of them are very good, even if I rank them lower. It's just personal preferences or what I think people might have in preferences towards reading these. I hope that made any sense, but I think you'll catch on when I start wrapping everything up. But first, I want to go over my stats. So for the month of August, I had an average of 3.85 rating, which I feel like is pretty typical for me. I'm usually around the 3.8 average. For the format that I read them in this month, I read 9 books physically and 5 books as a mix between audio and reading physically because I can't read audiobooks alone or else I don't understand any of it. This month I had 4 5-star reads, 5 4-star reads, 4 3-star reads, and 1 2-star read for 14 books total. And my page count came out to 5,340. And it was like perfect. I don't know how that happened. That was like right on the 10. This month I read 5 fantasy, 1 sci-fi, 2 contemporary, 2 poetry or written in verse books, 2 short stories, which is actually what I counted as my graphic novels, and 2 romance. For my age groups, I had 3 adult books, 10 young adult books, and 1 middle grade. So let's get into the ranking. A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir was the first book that I read this month. It is the second in the Ember and the Ashes series, and I didn't love Ember and the Ashes. I really disliked the love square going on in it, and this one kind of resolved it. I also felt like the ending towards this book made it much more interesting. I want to read the third book, but I think that the cover for the third book is not cute because it doesn't match, and that bothers me, but eventually I will continue on with the series. I did rate this 3 stars just because it wasn't my favorite ever, but it was a good book. So this book continues to follow Leigh and Elias from Ember and the Ashes, and they are kind of on the run from the world that they're living in, and more paranormal things start to pop up into this book, and I found that aspect pretty interesting. So right now it's going to be ranked number 1. Then I read Heartsong by Klune, and I love this book so much. It is the third in his Green Creek series that starts with Wolfsong, then Ravensong, and then Heartsong. And in each book it follows a different pairing of this wolf pack that they have, and these two were so precious. There's even a part that I had to dog ear and highlight because I was just a crying mess. Every single one of these books makes me cry, but I love them so much. Klune is clearly my favorite author of this year, but I highly recommend the Green Creek series in total. I can't really go into what's going on in this one because it will give lots of spoilers, but this one started off kind of thrillerish. I had no idea what was going on for the first 100 pages, and I loved it. So I highly recommend the series, and this is going to bump up to my number 1 spot right now. Then I read The Prince and the Dressmaker by Wang, and I liked it. It was really cute. The art style is really pretty. I felt like it was so colorful, and I love the storyline. It's about a prince who likes to wear dresses, and he meets a dressmaker, and she makes him dresses, and he goes out with her all dressed up and feeling amazing about himself, and I loved it. But I did think that it went by a little bit too quickly. Some things just happened all of a sudden. You're like, oh, okay, now we're having an issue. And then, oh, now it's resolved. So things were just happening really quickly, and I kind of wish it was split up into 3 separate books. But I really liked it. It's cute. The message is really sweet. But I didn't love it as much as the other 2 books that I read, so this will be my number 3 spot right now. Then I read Quiet Girl in a Noisy World, an introvert story by Tung, and this is exactly what it's like to be an INFJ. This is exactly me in a book. I absolutely loved it, but I think because it's for introverts, it's for people who are INFJs, it will not be for everyone. People might not understand how it feels, but if you are an introvert, if you are an INFJ, this is your book. It is exactly what it is like, and I absolutely loved it, but it's not going to be for everyone, so I will rank it number 4 on my list right now. Then I read Slay by Brittney Morris, and I had a really fun time. I've heard that if you like Ready Player One, you'll like this, but I've never read Ready Player One. But this one is about a girl who is 17 years old in high school, and she has created this virtual reality video game for the Black community. And one day, a boy who is about 16 years old gets killed over the currency in this video game. So she's feeling like she caused his death, and she's feeling very guilty about that and not really knowing how to handle that aspect because she thinks she's going to get sued by somebody who is harassing her in the game. And I had a really fun time reading this. I was scared with her. I was stressed out for like what she had to do, but it was a fun time. I did have one issue that she kept this video game a secret since she was 14 years old, and I feel like a video game that is this popular might need a bigger team, and I'm not really sure how she could keep up with her grades and keep updating this game all by herself without telling anybody. Nobody even in her family knew, so that felt a little odd, a little disbelievable, but I still had a good time. I rated this 4 stars, and I am going to rank this number 3 on my list so far. Then I participated in the historical romance readathon, and I started with The Duchess Deal by Tessa, and I absolutely loved this book. It was so much fun. It's about a seamstress who walks into a duke's house one day, and he is looking for a wife and an heir, and he makes a deal with her to marry her so that he can have a wife and an heir. And it is cheesy and really funny and pretty steamy, and I love this. I am so excited to read the rest of the books in this series. And because I think it's something that people would enjoy, it's just super light to read, it's really easy to understand, it's just a fun time, I'm going to actually rank this number 1 right now, just because I've heard so much good things about it, and I agree, it's just a really fun time. So if you're looking for a romance, this is a good place to start. Then for that readathon, I read Jewel by Beverly Jenkins, and I didn't love this one. It's not a bad book. The romance in it is pretty good, but this book tried to be way too many things, and it got very confusing towards the end, and it just felt like a completely different book by the last 50 pages. So I don't really recommend this, but I am looking at a bunch of other Beverly Jenkins books to read because I've heard that her books are really good. But this one just wasn't great. I think I have to rate this at the bottom of my ranking. Then I read Other Words for Home by Jasmine Warga, and spoiler alert, this is jumping to number 1, and it's going to stay at number 1 because it was amazing. It's about a girl who moves with her mom from Syria to the United States, and she has to leave behind her dad and her brother because they have chosen to stay back in Syria. And it's about her feeling like she doesn't belong anywhere. She doesn't feel like she belongs in the United States, and she's at a new school, and she's trying to practice her English and make it better, and she's missing her family, and she's struggling with her identity because she's in middle school, and she is just so precious. I absolutely love this one. I cried so many times reading this, and I love that this showed her in her ESL class and how that was a positive place for her. I'm an ESL teacher, so it just melted my heart to see that she had a place that she felt comfortable, and she had a teacher that she wanted to be a little bit vulnerable in front of and practice her English and share her life story with, and I love that so much. It made me sob and sob and sob. But this one's written in verse, so it's very simple to read, and I think it's a must read. So this is number 1, and it's going to stay number 1 because it is beautiful, and please pick this one up. I highly, highly, highly recommend this one. Then I read Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds, and I listened along to the audiobook, and it is narrated by Jason Reynolds, and it was really amazing. It made me cry almost the entire time. It's about a teenager whose brother has just been killed, and he is going to get revenge on the person who killed him. So he is going down an elevator, and he is meeting people that's kind of asking him, why are you doing this? Why are you going to do this? And it's so good. The audiobook at the end had an interview with Jason Reynolds, and he talks about how he wrote this because he noticed that a lot of the boys that are in prison for gang violence are in there because they have done these revenge killings before because they follow these rules. And just like this boy in the story, he follows these rules where if somebody kills somebody that you care about, you go and kill them. And then it's just like this vicious cycle. And I feel like it's just a really important read. It's something that I wasn't entirely aware of, and I'm glad that I have read it. And it's a hard-hitting one, and the way that he wrote it is just, it's incredible. It's really, really good. This is jumping to number 3 for me. Then I read Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor, and to say that this was flowery would be an understatement. This was like walking in a field of lavenders. There were so many flowery words, and it would have taken me weeks to get through this if I did not have the audiobook, because I am not a fan of flowery writing. But I'm glad that I read this one because it was very beautiful. It did feel like a dream. It felt like the tail end of a dream that like you're trying to hold on to, trying to remember, but it just like starts to fade. I don't know. It just feels like a dream. And I really did enjoy reading it. I'm glad that I read it. I am excited to read the next one. Who knows when I'll be able to get to it. But it follows a man named Laszlo Strange who is obsessed with this city called Weep. He knows that there's a different name for it, but the name of it disappeared. So he knows it's a very magical place, and he wants to uncover the mysteries of it. And one day he gets the chance to actually uncover the mysteries of it. And it was really cool. I'm excited to read the next one, but it was very flowery. There were a lot of words for a pretty simple story, and I felt like it was pretty predictable at times too, but I'm still glad that I read it. I rated it 4 stars. It's not a 5-star read for me just because there were too many words, but I did enjoy it. But I am going to rank this number 5 on my ranking for people like me who don't absolutely love flowery writing, but do want something beautiful. Listen along to the audiobook for sure. Then I read More Than This by Patrick Ness, and I did not love this one at all. I heard it highly recommended by so many people, and it was not for me. You can go check out my Goodreads review if you want to see a little bit more into the spoilery aspect of it, because this one, I feel like you can't really tell what this one's about without giving all the spoilers away. But I just didn't love it. I didn't love a message that it seemed to send. And I wrote about that in my review. So if you want to see that, you can, but I didn't like it. I had a lot of issues with it. It was not my favorite. But I will say that I think people will like this more than they would like, say, Jewel, in that it's weird enough to warrant a read, I guess. I don't know. Wasn't my favorite. It just didn't go where I expected it to. So this is going to be second to last on my list so far. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you like this one. I'm sorry. Then I read Full Disclosure by Camryn Garrett for the Page Turner Book Club, and it was okay. It felt like it was written for a very young audience. It had some issues. It tried to do a lot of things. It tried to have a lot of representation, and I felt like it didn't have a strong enough plot. I also had an issue with the who was blackmailing her person. And again, I wrote about this in my Goodreads review if you want to see spoilers for this, but I did like the message that this was trying to send. It's about a 17-year-old girl living with HIV, and it gives a lot of information about safe sex and what it means to live with HIV and the precautions people can take to not transfer HIV to anyone else. And I felt like it had a lot of good things in it. But the payoff wasn't great. But if it's something that you're interested in, I think it's worth a read. It just did feel like it was written for a very young audience. And it kind of felt a little cringy because of it, but wasn't the worst. The cover's beautiful. So I'm actually going to rank this above More Than This on my ranking right now. Then I read The Six of Crows duology, and I fell in love. I did. They are wonderful. I had a really, really fun time reading both of these. I filmed a vlog reacting, especially to the last 100 pages of this, and I was a sobbing wreck by the end of them, but I had such a fun time. I rated them both 5 stars because they were so good. This one is about 6 characters who are going on a heist to this like really impenetrable prison palace type place, and this one's following the aftermath of what happens in this book. And I read them back to back, could not put them down, and I love them so much. I am in love with Kazbrecker, I'm in love with the Nej, and I just really, really recommend these ones. They are as good as everyone says they are. They really are. So read these. These bumped all the way to number 2 and number 3 on my list. So overall, I had a really good reading month. Looking at my list, I'm really happy with how I laid this out. I feel like this is very true to how I feel I could recommend these books. These ones at the end, if you want to read them, go for it, but I feel like they are for specific people. Then with Heartsong, Strange the Dreamer, A Torch Against the Night, Slay, Prince and the Dressmaker, and A Quiet Girl in a Noisy World, it just depends on your preferences. You might like them. I do still recommend all of these. I felt like they were really good books, and I'm continuing on the series that are in here, and I would love to see more by the artist with these graphic novels. They were just really good. It just depends on what your preference is. If they sound good to you, I say go for it. If they don't, then don't bother. And then these top fives, I definitely recommend to everybody. I feel like most people will enjoy them. These are the ones that I'm going to recommend to my family if they ask me for any books, especially Other Words for Home. That one is amazing. And if anyone's looking for something fantasy and haven't tried out the Six of Crows duology, try them out. They're a lot of fun. If you want a romance, the Duchess deal is really cute, really cheesy. I loved it. And A Long Way Down is just a really important message that I think we all need to read about. So these are my 14 books from the month of August. I had a really good month. I'm really excited that I read them, and I'm very excited for September. In the back corner is my TBR for September, minus 2 books. So I'm waiting on those 2 books to come in. So I'm going to be reading about 16 books in September, if I can manage it. So if you want to see my September wrap-up, go ahead and subscribe, like this video if you liked how I ranked everything, and let me know if you would change any of the rankings or if you've read any of them in the comments and what your thoughts are. And I will see you later. Bye.